Okay, you're good.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's meeting. Thank you for shifting what we were doing this evening due to some, well, it's always COVID's fault. So, and again, it is COVID's fault. So, but welcome, everyone, and thank you. And please be patient as we're kind of pulling this together at the last second. If everyone would please rise, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I believe we're going to start with speakers. Is that correct, Dr. Arthur?
It is. So we will basically do public comment, and then we will shift right into any questions anyone might have about the contract. I'd also like to give Ms. Adams an opportunity to speak if she'd like to, and then we'll shift into a vote if that's where we head.
Okay. So we'll go ahead with our first public speaker.
Okay, I will admit them into the lobby. Give them a few seconds to get their audio set up, and then feel free to give that speaker directions.
Mrs. Ball,
Okay.
would you like me to do that, or?
Yes, I can. Okay. Good evening, Dallas. You're getting ready to speak. I believe you have 3 minutes. Brian will be timing that, who you don't see on the screen. He's the one running this. So I don't know if you have I can start a timer so I can hold my hand up when you have 1 minute left so that you'll know how much, so that you know it's kind of starting down. And you can begin now.
All right, my question is the MSD school district of Martinsville still experiencing a teacher shortage? And I was told earlier in this semester that there was the school district was having a difficult time finding teachers to teach, and also finding substitutes, that was part of the reason why the school district could not go back to school at the beginning of the school year, because they could also not find enough substitutes. Is that still the case? And then secondly, if so, why is the agreement for the salary compensation, why is the school district offering $10,000 incentive to as many unlimited number of people who will retire at the end of the school year? If we need teachers so badly, why would we be offering $10,000 incentive pay to as many people as want to take advantage of that? And then third, where are these funds coming from to fund all of these $10,000 incentive pay to give to early people who would like to retire at the end of this year? That's the end of my questions.
Okay, and this evening it was comment only. So it's your comments. It's not a Q&A. It's a comment only time.
I was told it was questions, comments, so there's no questions.
It's just a comment on the teacher negotiation, the new teacher contract.
So you're saying you can't answer those questions?
Not this evening, no. It's about the teacher negotiations.
Okay, so when will those questions be answered?
Well, I mean, some of them have already been answered in your email you got today, but I would just say send an email.
The reason why I'm asking the questions is because people at the school district don't respond to the emails.
Okay.
Mr. Collins, with all due respect, this is a public meeting, and there are board policies that prescribe how the meeting runs, and this is for public comment. It's not question and answer. So at this time, unless you have any additional comments you'd like to make, we are going to move to the next speaker.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good evening, Ms. McGowan. Welcome to the school board meeting. If you took your mute off, you'll have 3 minutes. I will start a timer here as well as Brian is starting one. I'll kind of try to hold my hand with 1 minute so you don't get surprised. And we will go from there. And if you're ready to start your comment, you can start it at any time.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for the opportunity to talk. I appreciate how hard the staff has worked and the teachers have worked to try to come to a contract. I was at the meeting the other day and listened, very impressed with how professional everyone spoke and how much discussion they had beforehand and were able to come to, I guess, the resolution that they did. I do want to commend our school corporation for making health and safety of our students and our teachers and our staff the most important. I mean, that is what it's about. It's about the kids. They need their education, but they need to be safe. I do want to give a real quick shout out, I guess, to the athletic teams and their coaches, at least the ones that my grandkids have been involved with. Their coaches have been diligent in making those kids wear masks when they are not playing. And that I think is important. Now, I wanted to get to the compensation part. I'm disappointed that our finances are so limited that our teachers are only receiving $500. That doesn't even keep up with insurance. So in essence, they're working double time. These valuable employees are having to roll with the punches almost day to day, and they're making less money. Nevertheless, I understand the economics. I truly do. I mean, I'm a lawyer and a former CPA. I understand you can't pay what you don't have. So my point in speaking is to make 3 main asks. Ask number 1, I would like to encourage the administration and the school board to make vocal public appreciation for our teachers and others that are on hands-on staff. You may know how hard they're working, but the public doesn't seem to know. There's a lot of people that get on Facebook and they lambast the teachers. I think there's even state representatives and people in Congress, in the state house, etc., that don't understand that the teachers really have to really work almost twice as much. And it doesn't cost anything. It doesn't cost anything to show appreciation and courtesy. So that's my ask. I'm not saying you were uncourteous. I just think the public needs to know more about that. My second ask is, it's not a teacher's decision on whether they have school or on red or not. So I would encourage better communication to the public why things are on red, and so that they understand why we are. And then the third ask is, if at the end of the year or next, quarter or whatever, there is money in the budget, I would ask that every possible dollar be squeezed out to go into the educators' compensation so that they don't end up in a negative position. I do commend the board and everybody for working together. I'm sorry that the situation is what it is, but I'm just asking for better communication to the public so that people don't feel like the teachers are not pulling their weight, because they are. And I know part of the staffing problem is because you don't have enough subs, because I get called every single day and I can't do it this year because I'm in a high risk category. So if people understood that, maybe they could help out. Either tell them, okay, then do you know somebody qualified? Get them to sign up. Or otherwise, you got to understand we can't hold class when we don't have anybody to teach or to be there. That's all I really have to say. Good luck to you all. There's nothing you can do about COVID until it goes away or we get a better modalities to treat it and a vaccine. Thank you for the time.
Thank you.
Okay, any other additional speakers, Mr. Freeze?
There are no additional speakers at this time.
Great, thank you. This will end the portion of public comment. as it relates to the teacher's contract ratification meeting by the board. And so at this point, I'm going to turn things over to Mrs. Adams if she has any comments before I ask the board for their questions and thoughts.
Thank you, Dr. Arthur. I appreciate the time. Generally, we like to share or we're asked about ratification percentages with regard to the vote. The vote procedure, we had approximately, I think we had about 85% participation in the vote. And it was a split of 78.5 in the affirmative and 21.5 with a no vote. And so I just like to share that for historical reference, we generally have somewhere between 85 to 95% participation in contract votes. And I was able to go back at least subjectively about 20 years on that. So I feel pretty good about that number. For this year, I want to say two things. First, I want to say that we do appreciate that there is some compensation in this contract to help offset insurance costs. So that is appreciated. But I would like to acknowledge that the number of no votes was very statistically high for this contract. And I just want to honor that both votes were there, because I feel like that's being fair to both sides of that opinion of yes, we agree with it, or no, we don't. I have heard from enough teachers to know that there is appreciation for the language changes, and they could see how that definitely does benefit quite a few people. So if there are any questions from anyone, I would be happy to answer that. But I wanted to share our percentage reporting and how the yes, no went, and then at least compare that to previous years just to honor both sides of that.
Thank you very much, Shannon. Is there anybody from the board that wishes to ask Shannon any questions, or I any questions?
I have some comments, and this relates into Ms. McGowan's statement. Shannon, I hope you know, and I think I've conveyed it many times over, the appreciation that I have for you and all of our teachers, and I know that the board shares my comments as well. But money's tight. And I mean, we could never pay you guys what you're worth, believe me. But one of the comments that she made was the praise. And that means a lot, I mean, to each and every one of us, when we receive that. But you and I both know we can't spend praise, But my point here is, each and every board meeting, we always recognize our teachers and the successes within our school system, and those. And if I could have asked Ms. McGowan, so I will ask you: is there any way that we can give you all public recognition, as Ms. McGowan was alluding to, that we don't already do?
Steve, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that question back to membership and see. I think that would be the best group of people to ask. Like, what does that look like? What does meaningful, what does that look like for people? I'm happy to ask that of the group. And I would also like to apologize if you could hear my dog in the background. I'm really sorry. But I will ask, and I'm not making light of the question, but I'm a little bit embarrassed that my dog is barking.
I appreciate that. But I think you'll agree with me that we do regularly recognize our personnel and the successes of our school system and our teachers, our principals, things such as that. I guess I'm just wondering, well, and we're limited to the media. We're limited, we have television and I'm sorry, not television. We have radio and we have the newspaper in attendance regularly, but we can't do their job for them. So that's the reason I asked, what can we do to, and I appreciate you taking that back to the teachers. So.
Steve, if I could add, you're right. I try to come to all of the school board meetings as a function of the position. And at every meeting, I do feel like the board has done a very nice job of acknowledging different things, all of the positive things happening in schools. And, you know, we could be in a situation here where, like, that idea of one negative thing, it almost takes 10 positives to offset the one negative. And so I will ask, though, if there's anything that our group thinks, and not just for teachers, but also just demonstrating, is there another way for us to show all of the great things that happen in our buildings? Because I know great things are happening in our buildings, and I know great things are happening in our district. So I will ask my group for some feedback, and I will follow.
If I may add also, and again, we could never show our appreciation enough for you all, but, you know, and also, you know, President Ball, she normally heads us up, and, you know, we give tokens of our appreciation throughout the year. And along with what you're saying, Dr. Arthur and Mr. Buckler and I, we've had conversations. We know how good of a school system we are, but we have to make people outside of our school system aware of how good we are. We have to make people want to come to the MSD of Martinsville from outside school systems, you know, from, you know, I'm just going to use as an example, Mooresville and some of the other surrounding areas. So, you know, I guess we have I know for sure Dr. Arthur and Mr. Buckler and I have had these conversations, but if there's any other ideas, I know that we all would be willing to listen to them.
I will reach out
Thank you,
and follow up. Thank you, Steve. I'll reach out and follow up.
Thank you, Mr. Rock. Is there anybody else that
Yes, sir.
Question or comment?
I just agree with Steve. I love what he said. It's yes, we do everything we can for our teachers. Everybody would love to do more, and they're a great group of individuals representing our community, our schools, and teaching our children, and they just do a great job. And I go back to Mrs. McGowan's comments about make vocal to the public and showing appreciation. And yes, Steve commented we do that at board meetings, but you know what? You can always do more. And so hopefully we can do more in the future.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
Okay. Any last comments?
Just thanks for everybody who worked on this. I know Debbie was on the committee, Shannon and your group, and Dr. Arthur and Mr. Buckler and Mr. Ogden. I know that took a lot of hours and a lot of your time, and I'm just appreciative of everyone coming to the table. So, I mean, at the end of
thank you. I think I speak for probably everyone on the screen. I believe I do. Just as Steve said, I think Dave, you've mentioned as well, you know, every dollar that can be made available to support our teachers and our support staff as well, collectively, I think we need to do. We find ourselves in a pinch. You all know that. Everyone knows that at this point. And so I'm very appreciative that the association has met us sort of in the middle here for this 1 year. And my hope is that we can get our kids back from COVID. As I shared, I believe in the last meeting, this is not different than many other districts around us. They're doing similar things that we are. They're having similar issues that we're having. And when I say districts around us, I'm talking statewide. So my hope is, of course, and what we'll work for in these coming months is getting those kids back so everything is a little bit more normal and we have a little bit more room to wiggle in terms of negotiations next year. So that's the goal for sure. And again, that impacts everybody, not just teachers, that impacts all of our support staff as well. So on that note, before we vote real quick, I also am going to bring, it was on the agenda tonight, but due to lots of COVID things today, we are not as prepared to bring to you tonight as I would like the plan for non-cert. So we will bring non-certified stipend suggestions to you guys at the board meeting on Thursday night. So we have not forgotten that group. We're not able to get everything done in the time frame that we had. So there are not timelines on the non-certified things. There are definite timelines on the teacher's contract in terms of impasse and those kinds of things. So again, thank you everyone for pulling everything together really quickly. And At this point, I would ask for a motion from the board, if you guys are ready, to accept the 2021 contract.
If I could echo what Dr. Arthur just said, we are very appreciative that the teachers union is willing to meet us in the middle, and we just wish that we could do more. And on behalf of that statement that he related, I would make the motion that we accept the contract as written.
Hang on, Steve. You jumped the gun a little bit on me. If I could ask for a motion to approve the 2020-2021 teacher contract, please.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Steve. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Debbie. Motion has been made by Steve and seconded by Debbie. We will now do a roll call vote. Debbie?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Steve?
Yep.
Dawn?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Motion carries 5-0.
Shannon, again, thank you very much for all your efforts.
And same to you, same to everyone on the board and everyone in the central office. It really does take a lot of people working in one direction to get all of this taken care of. So it is appreciated. You are all appreciated.
Thanks, Shannon.
Thank you.
Thanks,
One
Shannon.
last thought before you end the meeting, Ms. Vaugh. For those of you that will be signers on the contract, which will be Mr. Reinhardt, Mrs. Vaugh, not in order, other way around, Mrs. Vaugh, Mr. Reinhardt, Mrs. Adams, Mrs. Randall, and Mrs. Crabb. I have sent you electronically the document. It should send, so it'll be an electronic sign. You won't need to come to the CEC, but if you have any issues, please reach out to me and let me know as soon as you can if for some reason that doesn't work for you. So at this point, really appreciate the time and thank you, everybody.
And at this point, I would like to ask for a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion, we adjourn this meeting.
Thank you, Dave. Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you, Don. Motion's been made by Dave and seconded by Don. Roll call vote. Debbie?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Motion carries 5-0.